This debt, this destruction.
Global news impacts us.
We have to change the way we live. This is why we need independent media.
Cheers and salutations, everyone. Welcome to Hard Lens Media. I am your host, Kit Cabello, and as we all know, as we enter, or as we are leaving the dreadful year of 2023, we are going to be entering into our next election cycle of 2024. And while the main focus is on the presidential race, I want my viewers and subscribers to be made well aware of that there are other elections taking place. We here at Hard Lens Media have talked and interviewed with third-party candidates. We've talked about citizen ballot initiatives. And I think it's important that while everyone is talking about the presidency, we need to focus on the other elections that are taking place. And while a lot of you are burnt out by electoral politics, perhaps we can make a difference at the various levels of power here in the United States in order for we, the people, to have our voices heard, no matter where you stand on the political spectrum. And we here at Hard Lens Media believe in free speech, and we believe in giving everyone a fair platform in order to speak their minds. We've interviewed Greens, we've interviewed socialists, we've interviewed independents, and yes, we've interviewed libertarians, and, well, Democrats don't show up here as much anymore. We have yet to get a Republican to be on our show. Perhaps someday we'll get someone to cross that Rubicon. But today, I have a guest. Now, you might know him as the shaman from January 6th, but his name is Angeli Chansley. And he is joining us here first time on our show, and we're going to talk to him about running, or his run as a libertarian in the Arizona 8th Congressional District. Jake, first of all, did I say your name correct, and did I get the location correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. You got it all right.
All right. So, look, corporate media has its spin, and I have my bias towards corporate media because I believe that all it is just to spew out neoliberal garbage and, of course, corporate talking points and keeping us in the dark. So, for our viewers and subscribers, in case they haven't heard of you or seen of you before, can you please give us an introduction of who you are, what you're about, and the significance of you running in Arizona's 8th Congressional District?
Sure. Well, I'm a good man trying to do the right thing. I was in the Navy, so I'm a veteran. I worked with kids in group homes for 6.5 years. I also volunteered working with abused children, doing art therapy. I'm pretty familiar with the political arena, shall we say, and the political theater that is played in that arena. And I'm, for one, sick and tired of it. I don't think that the two-party system has done anything for the American people other than lie to us and, continue to lead us over a cliff. So hence my run for the 8th Congressional District here in Arizona as a libertarian.
Now, the thing is, when we hear about third parties or independents, corporate media, and sad to say, even Americans who are still hypnotized by voting Democrat or Republican believe that that's a lost cause or it's a distraction. It's not going to gain any momentum. What is the significance of you running as a third party? Because the same attacks usually come, and this happens to a lot of third party candidates that I've interviewed. Well, it seems nice, but you're not going to make an impact. Americans aren't interested in that. Or, why don't you just join the other team? Because people are going to laugh at you. They're going to make fun of you. They're going to dismiss your campaign. What is your counter to that? And before we talk about who's actually the current incumbent, what is your reaction when people do say that to you? Or, of course, when you probably will get the continuous attacks from the media, be it at various levels, about the insignificance of a third-party run?
Well, the more you care what people think, the more you are their slave, and I'm nobody's slave. So when people ask me why I'm running as a third party and not a Republican, because I have gotten that a lot here in this district, what I tell them is this: the two-party system has divided this country and taken everything from the American people in the process. The only thing that we've gotten in return is more poverty, more taxes, more wars, crisis after crisis after crisis after crisis, and less freedoms. And I refuse to cooperate and be a part of that two-party, which is actually at this point a uniparty system. A lot of people don't understand the intricacies of the two-party system and how it is that it's used to move money around, how it is that it's used to prop up certain candidates that are selected by the party system and not elected by the people.
Now, for our viewers, who's the current incumbent of the 8th Congressional District? What have they done? What's their track record in regards towards representing you and I guess some of your fellow constituents until like the election does take place? What's their record? Who are they? What are they about? And why should they be kicked out of office?
Well, Debbie Lesko is the current representative for the 8th Congressional District, but she's not running. She's choosing to retire, and thank God for that, because I've lived in District 8 for over 30 years.
Wow.
And I have seen a steady decline here in District 8. When I was growing up, it was a pretty quiet neighborhood. Now there's drive-by shootings. Now the drug problem is really becoming such an issue that there's panhandlers and homeless all over District 8, all over. And, you know, the border issue, the border crisis, it is a very real invasion, is something that Debbie Lesko hasn't done enough about. She has been in office for, I think, over 2 decades. And all I've seen is a steady decline.
Well, it's something I'm all too familiar with here in my state when we have dynastic politicians, be it at the city level or state level. But it's something a lot of Americans know all too well, where you have politicians who've been in power for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, till they reach the age of 91, like Dianne Feinstein, which is downright humiliating. So I'm going to assume, just right off the bat, before we get into some of your policies that you're running on, that you're for term limits. Am I correct, or am I off the mark?
Oh, that's part of my campaign, man. That's one of the things in my campaign is an amendment for term limits for congressmen and staff.
Fantastic. All right. Well, then already right off the bat, I think we're going to start off with your website. So first and foremost, I got to say, when I first saw this is actually pretty awesome. Love the graphics. I don't know who you got to make this, but look, single bill voting. Nice. Hold on. Come on.
Just scroll down. There
yeah, scrolling down. Insider trading. There we go. So it's pretty good stuff here. So you're taking it all on. So let's talk about some of your policy issues that you're running on. And everyone, if you want to check out his website, it's shamanforcongress.com. So let's remove this here. And let's talk about some of the policies that you are running on, because you're talking about rooting out corruption. You're talking about term limits. You're talking about single bill voting and insider trading. So first and foremost, I despise money in politics. I feel it has not only crippled our republic, but it's opened the door for anyone and any institution or business to buy our lawmakers. So first of all, it's been made abundantly clear, especially under the Biden-Harris administration, that Congress, Democrats and Republicans, are profiting off insider trading. And if you or I, as regular citizens, were to even do a fraction of what they were doing, you're never going to see the light of day ever again. So please explain to me this policy, or or how you're handling, or what would you do in regards to dealing with insider trading. Why is it a danger? Why is this a danger to our republic?
Well, because when the government has contracts with certain companies, their stocks go up tremendously. Okay. So if you have entities within the government that are getting these multi-billion-dollar contracts or giving multi-billion-dollar contracts to NGOs or to corporations, and then you have Congress members that know about these contracts because they voted on these things, and then they go and they buy stock in those corporations or what have you before the contract goes through, then they're essentially profiting, and they have a bias toward these contracts getting pushed through, which may not necessarily be good for the American people, but is good for them. So there's a very big problem with money in American politics. That's why my campaign platform is what it is, because our slogan is uprooting corruption. So in order to do that, we have to have a multi-leveled plan of how it is that we are going to get rid of this systemic corruption that exists not just in DC, but all over America.
Now, when you, I also want to, bring up this other issue called banning lobbying or ban lobbying, which is something I can get behind. And in your campaign website, you state, or your campaign states, making lobbying illegal is a proposal that seeks to fundamentally change the way interest groups interact with government officials. Now, to quote my U.S. Senator Dick Durbin, he once said about the banks, they run this place. The banks, Wall Street, corporations, big pharma, the healthcare insurance industry, the military-industrial complex, big oil, prison industrial complex. If there's a large institution, they're buying off a politician. And let's be clear here. I mean, this is a organization. These are groups that like things the way they are. And there is a potential, knowing that recent polling data showing that 50% of Americans support independent candidates, don't want to vote Republican or Democrat. It just matters of voter turnout. But let's say hypothetically you were to win your election, and that would be a great sight to see, a third-party candidate in Congress. But you might be, David, all alone against Goliath. I mean, you're going to be in a toe-to-toe slug match against institutions and groups that like things the way they are. Why would you want to take this head on? And where do you stand on issues like Citizens United and the McCutcheon's decision?
Well, didn't David slay Goliath?
True. Very true.
Okay. Why would I want to take it on? Because if we don't do something now, we aren't going to have a country. Our children are not going to grow up in a free nation, and our species and our planet will become extinct. These same NGOs and these international corporations that are lobbying our Congress members are creating anthropogenic chemicals, forever chemicals, that are destroying the microbiological life in the soil, the water, the air, and in our bodies. This pollution is exponentially growing and bioaccumulating in the ecosystem and destroying, like I said, the microbiological life in the water, the air, and in the soil, and in our bodies, creating disease in our bodies, creating ecocide, which is the destruction of whole ecosystems, and mass extinctions in the environment. So if you don't have microbiological life in the soil, the water, the air, or in your body that's healthy, then you don't have food, you don't have water to drink, you don't have air to breathe, and it's only a matter of time before those chemicals get in your body and kill you. So if this stuff is being manufactured at such high volume that it's destroying everything on a microbiological level, then we will not have children 7 generations away. So I understand what is actually at stake here, in not just in the United States, but abroad. And I, for one, am not just going to sit by and allow these evil entities to take over the planet. Now, I'll say this much as well. The systems in DC, the systems of corruption, can easily be dismantled. And my campaign platform is such: single bill voting law, an amendment for term limits for congressmen and staff, a ban or a criminalization of lobbying, and 7-figure fines, expulsion, and prosecution for all Congress members caught in insider trading. That will create very real obstacles to the centralization of power and the corruption of our system. It will change the status quo. And the thing is that everybody I've talked to, Republican voters, Democrat voters, Green Party, Independent, Libertarian, they can all get behind this. They can all get behind it. In fact, so much so that Matt Gaetz and Representative from California, Kana, has actually come forward. Both of these individuals are using these three of the main points in my campaign platform as an anti-corruption plan. So already my campaign is moving the needle in DC. Already it's proven that this is a issue that both parties within the Uniparty at least can agree upon. So why aren't we doing it? Why is it just taking until now?
I actually want to get your thoughts on this, because this is something I've been covering, again, giving analysis to elections since 2017 when we started on radio and so much more. But the one thing I've noticed, and this is something that's happened to third parties a lot, be it Green or Libertarian or Socialist, is that, what you're saying, I agree with. And what I've seen before, sadly, is Democratic politicians and Republican politicians doing a click, copy, paste of taking third-party ideas, running with it, and then never not following through with it. Because they could say good things like an abusive partner and say, oh, I won't cheat on you again. I won't steal from you again. I promise I won't yell at you again. And then they go right back to their behaviors. What are your thoughts on these two parties that do take your ideas or other third-party ideas that are popular amongst Americans, no matter where they stand on the political spectrum, that are popular, and then just never follow through with it and then kind of dismiss it? Do you have any kind of reaction to it? Because I don't see any sincerity coming from a Republican politician or a Democratic politician when they take a third-party idea and they never follow through, because 90% of the time these politicians are on the phone calling their donors for more money so they can get ready to run for the next election. What are your thoughts?
Well, you're absolutely right. They steal these ideas and then they run with them and they try to make them their own, and they butcher it, they dilute it, and they fumble the ball and nothing ever gets done. However, introducing these ideas into the dialogue is essential for them to be implemented. And if Representative Matt Gaetz or, Representative Khanna wants to do this, cool, do it. Get it pushed through. I got plenty of other things I'd like to work on. I'm just working on those 4 things because they will uproot corruption. However, do I expect them to? No. It's a funny world we live in. You got to do everything yourself. So I personally am just playing this as though they're not going to do anything. I'm going to have to do it myself. And once these ideas are introduced onto the House floor, then we're going to really start to see where these people's loyalties lie. And that's why I have my campaign platform structured the way that I do. First thing, bro. First thing, single bill voting law. Single bill voting law is
can you elaborate on that about single bill voting? Like what are you proposing precisely for single bill? Because you're talking about clarity and focus, you're talking about transparency. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So currently we have 2,000, 3,000 page omnibus bills. We're talking about law. That is 2,000, 3,000 pages and filled with all sorts of pork belly spending and earmarks. Okay. So they'll give it a nice title and they'll say, oh, this is what the bill is for. But in that bill, they've got a bunch of stuff that's for their special interest groups or for their NGOs or spending money overseas or what have you. So single bill voting gets rid of all that. And guess what? These Congress members, they're supposed to be reading 2,000 to 3,000 pages in 24 to 48 hours. That ain't happening. So they say, here's your bill. You have to vote on this tomorrow or in 2 days. And the Congress member, they're just the face for the bill, dude. They're not actually writing this crap. So they don't even know what is in the bill, and they're trying to pass it into law. So if we do a single bill voting, that means that every single bill is a one issue bill. So, you want to fund the border? Good. Here's the single bill. Oh, you want to send money to Ukraine? Here's the bill. Oh, you want to send money to a special interest group or to some foreign nation? Here's the bill. And then what this does is it actually does create large amounts of transparency, because then you're going to be able to see who is sponsoring these candidates, what special interest groups, what corporations are getting behind these candidates based on the way that they're voting. So similar to a NASCAR driver wearing their corporate sponsor on their suit, these politicians are going to start having to wear their corporate sponsors on their lapel based on their voting record.
Well, it's something that I would like to see firsthand, because we need to have full-on transparency. So I know that you are definitely took time out of your day to join us. So first of all, I'm glad that you are running on these proposals. I'm glad that you're running as a third-party candidate, and I encourage people, especially any viewing members of ours that live in the great state of Arizona, to check it out. But just in comparison, just so I can get an idea of maybe what you might be dealing with. In my state, in Illinois, for example, Libertarians, Greens, or Independents, no matter what office they're running for, have to get a buttload of signatures, more so than a Democrat or Republican politician. In Arizona, what are the laws that third parties have to face off against? Are they fair, or are they like in Illinois, for example, that you better make sure every I is dotted and every T is crossed, because if it's not, your name's going to be, or that name will be dismissed. I've covered that numerous times for the Illinois Libertarian Party and Illinois Green Party or any other independent. So what are some of the challenges that you have to do to secure yourself to get on the ballot and, dare I say, potentially on the debate stage with whoever is going to be running, if there will be any debates? Because knowing how the presidential election cycle is turning out, who knows if that's going to be a thing either. So can you take it away?
Yeah, sure. So here in Arizona, it's not like it is in Illinois. Granted, you do have to make sure your, T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. But the amount of signatures that one has to get as a independent or libertarian or third party candidate are not of the same volume that you would have to if you're a Republican or a Democrat. So that's cool. It is a significant number, but it's nothing like, 10,000 or anything like that. So that's cool. I'm working on it. I'm not worried about it. I want to do all my signatures electronically. I don't really want to do the paper signatures, because paper signatures can be easily dismissed or easily screwed up. It's a legal document. These paper signatures are legal documents. So let's say you get 9 signatures on your paper, and the 10th signature messes up, and they try to like scribble it out, or they go outside the lines or something. Well, now all those other 9 signatures are no longer valid. So I'm doing the whole digital signature thing to ensure that all signatures are verified and to make sure that all signatures are counted.
Fantastic. All right. So one other thing here that I think it should be brought up. And I know that you went into detail on this on the Jimmy Dore show and previous other interviews. But with the incident that took place on January 6th and the aftermath of which you went through, I think a lot of people would think, oh, my goodness, what a devastating blow that would be to me as a person. Maybe I wouldn't show myself up in the light of day. But I think, as we all know, the world keeps on moving on. We all must push forward and continue living our lives. What made you keep on pushing forward? And now that so much more is being talked about January 6th, and that the media played a role in, twisting things around, and more footage is coming out, and it wasn't the end all or the twilight of the republic. I just want to get your thoughts on that day and the aftermath that you went through, and you pushing forward to be where you're at right now. I know it's a lot to talk about and unpack, but I think it's important that we hear your voice about this, because since then, January 6th has been used by the political establishment and corporate media to censor, suppress, silence, make people be afraid. And I think with everything that we witnessed in this year, people are just burnt out by being afraid. So I want to give the floor to you.
Okay, well, let's start by saying January 6th was a deep state setup on behalf of entities within the government, in many cases, bureaucratic agencies or the Pentagon. The Pentagon, the FBI, people like Yogananda Pittman, who's the intelligence officer for Capitol Police. These people suppressed intelligence and did not allow it to get to Chief Sund. Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell changed the laws last minute, a couple of weeks before January 6th, that did not allow Chief Sund to invoke the National Guard at his own behest. He had to go through them. And the setup turned into a psyop that was intended to divide this country further, to demonize Trump and his supporters, to frighten people into not speaking up and standing up for their rights. So that being said, why do I push forward? Why am I, running for Congress? Number one, because I have faith in God. Number two, because I know what's at stake. I know that if we don't do something now, then we will not have children 7 generations away. We will not have a planet 7 generations away. I love nature. I love humanity. And I want to protect both of them from evil people and evil institutions that do not have their best interest at heart, that do not love nature, that do not love humanity, but instead want to use them to make money for themselves in the moment, which is absolutely atrocious. So because I know what's at stake, because I know what we actually stand to lose here, anything that I go through, no big deal, dude. Let's do this. Let's make sure that humanity and the planet is safe. And if I have to go through some crap to make sure that that is the case, then so be it. At least we'll have children 7 generations away. At least we'll have a planet, food to eat, water to drink, air to breathe, and no disease in the body.
I think that's a good note to end it on. I want to share your website again. And look, as one other final note too, for a long time, independents and third parties have been dismissed by the political system. And I think for a long time too, corporate media likes to give out its narrative and smear people. And what we have to remember is that there's always an agenda by the establishment, the two-party system, corporate media, to control people. And for a long time, sadly, a lot of Americans bought into this. And I think maybe now people are waking up. Maybe now people will push forward. And I just want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. For this one last statement here from you. What do you want to say to people that perhaps maybe are, and I've asked this to a lot of candidates before, and this is an old school question. So if people been watching Hard Lens Media, they know this one. But what do you want to say to people who are sitting on the sidelines, perhaps maybe afraid to get involved in politics, or maybe afraid to lift out their voices because of criticism or just the monoliths of social media? What do you want to say to people who are on the sidelines, maybe waiting to get involved, but aren't taking that initial step forward? I want to give you the final word.
I'll say this. Imagine that everybody in the country voted. Currently, we have about half at the most of the country voting in our elections. It would be impossible for these crooked people to cheat if everybody voted, if we simply saturated the system with our voice. So speak your mind. Say what it is that's on your mind. Say what, vote at the ballot box. Mm-hmm. Refuse to give up. The thing about demoralization and psychological warfare is to convince your opposition that resistance is futile, that the war is already over, that fighting is pointless, when nothing can be further from the truth here in this country, whether it be the narrative changing about January 6th, whether it be the truth about systemic corruption becoming revealed, whether it be the truth that we've been lied to by our Mockingbird media and by our politicians for decades. All of it's coming out. So now is the time to get off the sidelines and get into the game. And guess what? When we do that, we change the game, because the game has been being played this way for a long time. But when you get involved and you're not afraid of criticism, when you stand up for what's right, you will be supported by the divine forces of creation, by God. And we will change the world. We will change this country. We will take it back from the globalist less than 1%ers that seek to profit from your misery and control the lives of you and your children for centuries to come.
All right. Well, that's Jake Angeli Chansley. He's running for Arizona's 8th Congressional District. Jake, thank you so much for your time. To the rest of my viewing audience, we're going to continue on with our main show. Plus, I'm joined with a special guest co-host. That's right. I'm co-hosting this show. So if you're watching us on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, and Kick, please stay tuned. And Jake, I'll be playing out the end credits. So thank you so much for joining. Everyone, please stay tuned, and all the best to all of you. And good luck to you on your campaign as well, Jake.
Thank you. God bless. Merry Christmas.
Now what you're following, that's idolatry, that's just fake. And all that wallowing that you tolerate, that's not faith. The kings of colony watched autonomy make our graves. The kings of colony know no policy. the only way. Now once you fall asleep, it won't bother you what they say. But the kings of colony, while they slaughter, they still complain. We say, please color me, still too solemnly, still too plain. All hail economy, praise the pharmacy, seas in flames. They're buying up Hawaii, and the smoke's not even cleared. Those vultures smelled the fire and an enterprise appeared. Investment opportunities where melted down communities leave vacant space BlackRock has been lusting for years. The council meets in private and they don't discuss survivors. Concerns among construction groups are all Lahaina hears. They'll wander through your city with this mocking sword of pity next to Oprah and her camera crew who tore the Trail of Tears, where footage flows as freely as the stream of liquid steel and the pools of pure aluminum that trickle down your wheels. And Biden's here to say he knows exactly how it feels, cause he had a kitchen fire once and had to miss a meal. And people still believe that piece of shit deserves your vote, like he's not why supplies are being smuggled in by boat, like he's not why our citizens were forced to stay and roast. And he can't unfreeze your funding, folks, cause Azov needs it most. I'll bet my every dollar Biden watched it with a smile. I'll bet he knows the whereabouts of every missing child. He's just the kind of man who lives to trample something tribal, collecting culture's corpses just to throw them on the pile. Like he and all his buddies didn't dream about the day when those who dared defy the donor class were cleared away, when home insurance triples and you can't afford to stay, and your land falls to the hands of those whose windfall fan the flames. The state will take Lahaina and they'll bastardize its name, and tourism will swarm it all the same. You see, the state we left Lahaina shows the ground rules of the game, the planes that in the night ignite the planes. And if questions raised that reckon the potential use of lasers, I suggest you take a closer shave by way of Occam's razor. And if those civilians stood between this country and its gains, then there's really nothing further to explain. Because you may know this already, if you truly know our past, but it ain't the first occasion and it will not be the last where Americans are kettled in and made to bear the blast, are barricaded in and left for ash. How many in Lahaina now are lying there awake and still can hear the city we left leveled in our wake? They still hear all the people that we let the fire take, instructed from above to stay in place. So look to the horizon, because a fire comes for you. Desire made incarnate of the power-hungry few who instructed the police to not let anybody through, to barricade them in, and so they do.